slept well. Although what I'm noticing is I'm waking up, um, not a lot, but I feel like I'm waking up more than usual, and I think part of it is the humidity. So it's humid as crap, just always damp, just damp, damp, damp. Anyway, let's get to it. There's this great military quote, which I learned in basic training, which goes, if it ain't raining, we ain't training, which is basically saying that, if it doesn't suck hard, it's not worth training. Like you train when it's terrible, because if you're good when it's terrible, then your chances of survival go up, right? So the story that comes to mind when I think about this is my mom's response to me after I got my tonsils removed. So I got my tonsils removed when I was 18, and they always say it's not ideal to get your tonsils removed when you're 18 because, or when you're older, because there's a chance for complications. Well, I just kept getting strep throat, and so they decided to do it, and so I got my tonsils removed in Richmond, Virginia, out in Henrico, and we were staying at one of those kind of condos that you can rent for a summer. So anyway, we get the surgery done in the morning, but in the evening I get this experience of that metallic taste in your mouth, and it turns out a stitch busted open. And so the scene is me kind of walking out of the bathroom going, "Mom, I hope I have a hala," and there's just this steady stream of blood coming out of my mouth, like a faucet being on. And my mom's a trained nurse, and she sees this. She goes, "Okay, go put your face over the toilet." I went over to the toilet, and she was so calm, and I'm like, "Mom, you need to be calm yet. Mom, you're calm." And she's like, "The ambulance will take too long. Just put your head over the toilet. I'll get you a bucket." She gets me a bucket. She's like, "Hold this over your face." We get in the car, and she's driving the speed limit. She's just calm. I mean, I drive down these streets now. I remember her driving to the hospital. I remember getting into the hospital, and I remember just my mom just being calm, Mama. I remember Mama just being calm and methodical. And I made it through, obviously, but what I want to draw attention to is the fact that regardless of what's going on, okay? Regardless of what's going on in any context, the opportunity to be centered and focused and present is always there. And as you recognize that and go through that on a regular basis, or not on a regular basis, but each time you go through it, you can begin to assess the fact that whatever is showing up is okay. And it's okay, and you can work with it, and you can follow the practice with it. You can recognize the present moment fully. Go through all your senses. You can organize your posture. Okay, your posture is all about balance, right? So finding a balance that you can kind of return to. You have your balance at your center. You move from a balanced place, and you return to the balanced place. Your breath. With your breathing, you're getting into the nitty-gritty, the subtle, the like, you're not just kind of inside you're in like the third layer of the present moment, and at the third bell, or with your breath. You're in there. And then the fourth bell is your energy, okay? So the thing about my mom's energy during that event was that it wasn't jovial, like, "Oh, no big deal," but it wasn't like, "Ah!" It was, "I understand you, I see your situation, and I'm going to fix it." And it was it was open. It wasn't closed. It wasn't scared. It was just open. And that is what held me together. It was all those things held me together. But ultimately, it was just her general feeling of, I'm with you. I'm here. Be brave. I'm being brave. You can be brave too. I feel your fear. It's okay that you're afraid, but we're going to get through this. And it was totally, that's the goal, right? That's, and she needed to understand the first three bells in order for her to get to the fourth. She had to recognize what was going on. She was aware enough not to call the ambulance because that would have taken too long. Her body, her posture, her balance, right? She wasn't speeding. She wasn't going to get into a car accident on the way to the hospital. And then when she got to the doctor's office, I was like, and she was just methodically, boom, boom. I'm a nurse. Here's what I know. And it was just, man, it was so reassuring. So I encourage you to look at this training as a kind of a really big force multiplier. Like, you as an individual are a force multiplier. Your leadership or your participation in challenging times either brings something to the table or takes something away. And I encourage you to see the practice as bringing your best self to the table, and ultimately that these challenges that are inevitable, the challenge of life, right? And the challenge that time now particularly holds are all challenges that can be blended with and open your heart towards, so you can do it. But these steps, right? They're really, really effective. Oh my gosh. It's such an effective thing. It's so effective. I mean, these steps are arguably the same steps that you take when you fire a weapon. That's how you hit your target. So these steps are very, very effective at bringing your best to a challenging situation. So let's go into the training with that attitude, that like, this isn't just mindfulness, right? This is how do I marshal every asset that I have in an effective, methodical, strategic manner to bring the very best version of myself to a moment that's particularly difficult. So let's look at the training like that today. So quick assessment, light shadow, sound, smell, touch, taste. Notice your ground, what's beneath you, pelvis, core. Spend a little time in your core. You've got these different layers. You've got your abdominal layer, you've got your transverse abdominal layer, you've got your side, I can't remember what those are called. You also have the psoas, which goes underneath those muscles. And so spend a little time at the core to kind of feel if there's layers of holding that you might not kind of notice. The psoas goes from your kind of back of the spine by the diaphragm all the way down through your pelvis and connects to your femurs, insides of your femurs. Heart space, throat, head, Let's go 3 max inhales. Now notice your normal breathing compared to those maxed out breaths. Now let's add some speed, okay? So we're gonna do something called fire breathing, right? Hence when it's hot, fire breathing, like it's under pressure. Like there's a speed element, there's a pressure element, there's a kind of keep this going element. So added a little bit of intensity here. So the way this works is you want to just practice putting together a stream of like, well, we'll see how this. Let me see if this analogy works. Yeah. Okay. So, there's another phrase in the military that we owe to the machine gunner, and it phrase is "die, motherfucker, die." So the way the machine gun operates is if you keep it on full auto the whole time, it burns the barrel out. So it gets too hot and the barrel goes to shit. So you have to do a burst, and the burst needs to be appropriately timed so that other machine guns can burst with you to keep a steady rain of fire. And the way they've articulated that, and I'm sure they've evolved it in some ways, but I'm sure it's still kind of rooted in this style. But if you say in your head, "Die, motherfucker, die," that is about enough time to kind of do the amount of breath that you need to do. So the amount of bullets. So if you go, "Die, motherfucker, die," pause. "Die, motherfucker, die," pause. "Die, motherfucker, die," pause. So try it like that. And this is called fire breathing. And then what you would do is you would actually stream them together. So let's do 5 die, motherfucker, dies. and then we'll see if we can put them together. So it looks like this. So now put it together and see if you can get out of the like but and into just but like this. That's fast breathing. That's fire breathing. It's got some interesting uses. So let's go to 4th bell here. Or actually, no, let's just sit for a second. Just sit and notice what that felt like and what it still feels like. You might feel lightheaded. It might feel a little off, a little weird. You might feel a little bit kind of like lightheaded, airy, a little bit kind of woozy. But just sit with it for a second and let it settle. And you come back to just normal breath. All this stuff going on, all these challenges that we're facing, all these uncertainties that are abound, what if you imagine them as good training? What if you saw them as opportunities to really put the practice into practice and to just bring that kind of best version of yourself to the foreground? You can do it. You totally can do it. It's when you've lost your center, when you're off in story, when you've started blaming, woe is me, that type of stuff. Don't let that get you down. Get back to first bell. Get back to the present moment. Go through the steps of the second bell. Get into your breathing. Settle, and then move forward with that open heart. And an open heart isn't a vulnerable heart. Vulnerability becomes strength when it's just open. When this is ultimately why it would seem Biden has a huge advantage over Trump, is because Trump cannot be vulnerable. He can't. His whole shtick is, I've got everything under control. And that's impossible. It's a fool's errand to believe something like that. It's a fool's errand to say something like that. It's just, okay. But Biden, he's got vulnerability, not just vulnerability, he's got deep sadness in his past. Good Lord. That dude lost his wife and his son. He's a Gold Star father. Or no, I don't know if his son died in war. I have to double check that. But Biden has lost his wife and a child. That's like as difficult of something to imagine. You can't. So Biden knows suffering. And so when he says, I feel your pain, he has felt your pain. When Trump says, I can fix you, I can fix it, it's all he knows how to say. Like that. That's really his only tool. So, don't let your suffering or your vulnerability or your challenges be some kind of indicator of failure or flaw. It's just great training. It really is. And you can move through it. So I made an interpretation of this one. Read it again. Oh, I haven't even read it yet. Practice the art of peace sincerely, and evil thoughts and deeds will naturally disappear. The only desire that should remain is the thirst for more and more training in the way. And then my interpretation was, when you train without fear of doing it right, darkness begins to just have qualities of sensation. Good training. It was a cool thing about my mom. All right, I'm down. See you tomorrow.